Alright, so this was a fanfiction idea that was voted upon by members of my Patreon community. And as always, if you guys would like to join my Patreon, just hit the link below, head on over to there. And yeah, if you guys just want to check out movie reviews as well as join in polls for Patreon, just you guys can hit the first tier, and that'll be it. That's how you can do polls for voting on videos to do for me to pick out videos for me to do here on YouTube, as well as there on Patreon, as well as check out the movie reviews for any theatrical films I see this year. Excuse me. But anyway, so this was a three-way crossover that was voted upon, and honestly, it was actually a tie, and I decided to be tiebreaker here. So it was a tie between the Ghostbusters Mummy Gargoyles crossover and the Lost Boys Ed, and Eddy Kolcheck crossover. So, as you can see, which one has won out in the end. So yes, we're going to be doing a Lost Boys Ed, and Eddy and Kolcheck crossover. So, anyway, so let's get started. So this story begins with essentially what has gone on is that the Eds are watching TV with Ed, and essentially a commercial comes on during this monster movie marathon, and what happens is that they reveal that there's an open casting call for a stunt actor for wanting to play a monster. Like, do you want to be a monster in an upcoming film? Check this out. And of course, Ed is all excited. Eddy sees dollar signs in his eyes, and Double D is like, how are we going to get there, gentlemen? I fail to see how we're going to get to the West Coast from where we are. To which Ed's like, Eddy's like, don't worry, we'll use my dad's credit card. And he shows that he's snagged, and he's like, Eddy, have you lost your mind? You want us to go all the way to L.A. to some contest? And he's like, think of the wealth, the fame, the friends. And so Double D is, of course, Ed is no help, because Ed is just like, I want to be a monster, Ed, Double D. And Double D goes, the last time you were a monster, you rampaged and destroyed half the cul-de-sac. I shudder to think what would be like if you were put in a suit again. But eventually, Double D's concerns are silenced. Essentially, what happens is that the Eds more or less take a Greyhound bus trip all the way from Peach Creek to L.A. And when they get off, they're like, "Oh, this is so cool! Here we are. We're in Hollywood. We're gonna, dreams are made of gold. We are gonna make it, and and if we don't, we'll fake it till we make it." And that's their whole thing, is that they're just like, "Yeah, we're gonna be movie stars. We're gonna be awesome." And Double D is like, "Pardon, Eddy, but Ed is gonna be the star." And to which Eddy's like, haven't you ever heard of an agent? That's me. Eddy the agent. And you can be, I don't know, also agent. So that's their whole plan, is to pretend to be Ed's agent while he does all the monster stuff. However, when they arrive, they discover that what has happened is that there's been a series of attacks carried out through the night, and one such attack happened near a bus stop not too far away from where they were, and these Hollywood killings have been going on for like a couple weeks, and the police are stumped. All the victims are butchered, and apparently they're drained of blood. They're being called the vampire killings, and they're more or less being blamed on, like, the police chief is just like, oh, it's a bunch of kids who've seen one too many vampire movies. That's what we think it is. Meanwhile, while the Eds are like in the crowd, and Double D's like, oh, the horror. Meanwhile, they notice that there's this guy walking around taking pictures of the crime scene, and they're just this guy's just taking pictures. And then when Double D's like, excuse me, sir, do you know what's going on? And he's like, no, but I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. And Ed is already thinking, oh, come on, Double D, they said vampire, so obviously it's a vampire, duh. And Double D's like, no, there's no such thing as vampires. There's no logical explanation for vampires, Ed. While I do appreciate your childhood, mentality sometimes, this is one of the times where I must unfortunately quash your childhood and your creativity for a moment and remind you that there are no vampires, just bad people. And the reporter's just like, yeah, you'd be surprised. You would be surprised. And they're like, I'm sorry, who are you again? He's like, oh, I'm Carl Kolcheck. I'm an investigative reporter from Chicago. I came all the way out here because I heard of a story here in LA with the vampire killings, and I just wanted to check it out. Kolcheck explains that he more or less, like, he without saying he's a monster hunter, he's a monster hunter without saying he's a monster hunter, he tells them, like, I follow paranormal I follow, like, paranormal or abnormal stories for my paper in Chicago. So that's his whole thing. And from there, Kolcheck leaves, and the Eds want to go off and get this casting done. However, when they go to the casting for the monster suit, they say, "Well, we're not doing that yet. You're literally a day early. Come here tomorrow, and we'll see what we can do with your mono-browed friend." So they're like, Double D's like, "Well, we're a day early, gentlemen. What do you say we do?" "Oh, we could go see the La Brea Tar Pits." And Eddy goes, "Or, better idea, we can go we can go to a Hollywood club and pick up some chicks." Chickens! So they all go to a club, and that's where they encounter a certain vampire by the name of David, who's pretending to just be a dude. He's just like, "So, you guys are new here. Where are you guys from?" He's like, "Oh, we're from a town in Peach Creek." And he's like, "Oh, cool. My friends and I are California locals, but we haven't been to Hollywood. We thought we'd expand our horizons, so to speak." So David explains that he and his crew came up from our like West Coast, but they've always been like, yeah, we've toured around a few times. It's always been kind of fun, but really we're just here, to take a bite out of the scenery, so to speak. So Eddy thinks they're the coolest guys ever, and thinks like, yeah, these are some guys we could roll around. If we're going to be in LA, we need to have a posse. But Double D doesn't think this is a good idea. He doesn't trust them. Ed also is like, too much leather. He also, Ed also notices while they're all at the club talking, he also notices that David and his crew all don't have reflections, and Ed is like, vampires! So Ed tries to convince Double D that they're Double D and Eddy that they're vampires, and Double D is like, "Yes, no, Ed. While they don't seem like a good crew, they do seem like they're not vampires. Ed, you need to stop this. This is not okay behavior. Although I do agree that they're some very unscrupulous gentlemen." Eddy, however, is like, you guys suck. Every time I want to do something fun or want to take chances, you guys always hold me back. Well, this time I'm gonna embrace the LA lifestyle and go hang out with them. So Eddy leaves, leaving Double D and Ed just all angry, and Ed still is trying to convince Double D that they're vampires, but Double D's just like, enough, Ed. It's about this time that Carl Kolcheck shows up again, and Carl tells them hey, did you guys see some heavily leathered guys hang around here? And they're like, yeah, they left with our friend. And he's like, really? We gotta go. So Kolcheck takes Ed and Double D with him in his car, and he explains I've been tailing these guys for a while. They're a gang, and they've been, wherever they go, there seems to be some death and destruction. And he's like, why haven't you gone to the police? He's like, because I don't have enough evidence, and they wouldn't believe me if I told them what was going on. And he's like, what is going on? He's like, I don't think you'll have to see it to believe it. So so the three of them follow the crew back to their little hiding spot, which is a rundown hotel, and Eddy is they want to bring Eddy into the fold, or not actually bring him into the fold, more like eat him. And that's when Eddy's like, holy crap, you're all vampires! So Eddy is now running around the hotel with with David and his crew trying to kill him. And that's when Kolcheck arrives, and he's also got like wooden stakes, holy water, and they're like, you! So it is revealed that Kolcheck has been chasing David and the others through the whole thing. So the Eds, now locked and loaded with vampire hunting gear, go in there and just start tearing ass through the whole hotel of just staking vampires. And Double D's like, I just committed murder. They're not live, Double D. It's okay. You didn't. They're not. They're undead. It's totally fine. You didn't kill anyone. and Ed takes this moment. He's like, enjoy. He's like, I am the Astro Creep, and just double stakes two vampires. They are just completely tearing shit up left and right until David's left, and he's just mind whammying them with his mental powers until Kolcheck rips off a sheet and reveals that the sun has come up and burns him alive. So Kolcheck's like, yep, got my story, and you kids have fun. You know, it's a brand new day. And Eddie's like, day? We need to get back to our casting call. But it's too late. They missed their shot, and they're now broke and covered in vampire guts. So, and they're also out of money because they spent it all at the club. By this point, Kolcheck is just like, hey guys, I will take you back home. I'll take you guys back to Peach Creek, and it shouldn't be too far away from Chicago. So that's the end of the story, is that they all pile up into Kolcheck's car and head out back home. So there you go, guys. That is the Ed, and Eddy Lost Boys Kolcheck crossover. You guys tell me in the comments below what you guys think of it. Comment below, let me know. And once again, if you'd like to join in these polls to vote on other stories, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, where you guys hit the first tier, and start sending me, well, that's the fourth tier if you want to do other stuff. You know, I mean, other stuff as in request videos for me to do. But if you just want to do in votes and whatnot, just hit the link below, hit the first tier. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.